Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and welcome to our Soul Work Sunday. If you haven't been on the broadcast before, let me just explain what happens. The first thing is that we will just do a couple of hellos and updates to people as they start coming in to watch the program. And we like to do updates on people because we're like an extended family of people and our lives change every week and we like to keep up to date as far as we can. So that is the first thing to be aware of. The second thing is to know that we will be starting the actual soul work at the end of that. So if you're watching on the replay, you'll notice in the notes below, it'll say from 00 to this time, news and updates. And then from this time onwards, it's going to say that we are doing the topic of the day. So that's why it is. I just want to double check that I have put up the right link for people. Just bear with me 1 second. Because there isn't much point in carrying on if I haven't got the right link up. Story of my life. There she is. Hi there, Jody. All right, so very good afternoon to you, Jody. And before I forget, I would like to wish all the people who are going to watch this either now or later a very happy Labor Day, I believe, for you in the States. So, now I thought I'd tell you something of interest. Jody, are you suffering at all from heat rash? As you can probably see, I've been really struggling down my neck and down like this, and it has to do with the way you can probably see that crease. When I go to sleep at night, I'm creasing up like this, and I get a heat rash all the way down that line. And so I thought I would tell you what I did today that stopped the itching immediately. And it was like, why didn't I think of this before? So let me know if you get heat rash issues. It's amazing how, you just, okay. I don't know what sort of deodorant you've got, but I have a gel deodorant. And I, for some reason, thought to myself, I wonder whether the mixture that is in deodorant will help this. And I want to tell you, I literally just put it on and the itching went away immediately. So, and I think Jody might want to know about that. So remind me when I get a few more people in here just to repeat that, because it may well help a couple of people. I don't know whether it works on the solid, but I have the gel type, and I think the gel type has a little bit of alcohol in it. I could be wrong, but whatever it is that is the sort of part of the ingredient there just took the itching. I'm not joking. It just took the itching out, like done. And I have a feeling because the itching has gone, I'll stop. I haven't scratched it since. And you can see I was scratching it badly. And then, of course, it was getting infected. So, because, I've had enough of it. But I'm pretty sure there'll be people that actually tune in to watch this that may want to know about that. So that's why I thought I would mention it at the get-go. So do you have any plans for Labor Day, everybody? And let me know if you do. Even on the replay. The reason I say that is have plans. I'm a great believer in telling people have plans to do things. Now, Jody, I've been seriously thinking about our 2 hours challenge that we were doing. I know what you're going to be doing, and you know that I'm going to be in the studio trying to clean up. I've actually done a little bit of it already. But then I realized I was kidding myself because I was cleaning up things ready to paint again, not cleaning up things to put them away. Do you understand the difference in that? And I'm so glad you like the little clip that I put up on the Facebook page. And by the way, if you're watching this for the first time, please make sure that you follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at DearMamaSal, because that's where I put up anything I find that I think you guys might enjoy. And that normally means that I went, oh, isn't that cute? and if I think that, then I go, well, if I think that, then my viewers will too. And so, oh, I should not have done that. I'll put that piece of hair right back where it was. So I will. I put up this little video of a little girl trying to jump up onto a height. Now, the height must have been up to about her chest level. Am I correct on that, Jody? But to watch how many times she tried it and failed was amazing. And then she tried it and did it. And, about halfway through, you could see her thinking to herself, I don't want to do this anymore. You could see that on that look, and Daddy came in and just, reminded her to keep straight and reminded her to do a couple of things and patted her on the rear end and went, go for it. And you could see the concentration on her face, and she's standing there going, and quite honestly, Jody, she didn't look any different I thought she doesn't look like she thinks she's going to do it. Oh, the frustration. Yeah, absolutely. And then she did it. But the elation was, it was worth watching her struggle just to see how happy she was. Now, the reason I wanted to tell you about that was because, just hold on, for those who haven't seen, wrong one. I got to turn the right way here. I was showing the viewers over the last couple of broadcasts this particular painting that I did, and it's done by something called a swipe method. Now, that looks pretty interesting, and it looks pretty easy. Well, Jody, the reason I had to put that up was because, do you know how many of these I did? How many of these I did before I got to this? And it's the reason why I wanted to make sure that people understood that, all right? Yeah. So I cannot tell you how many of these I did where it just didn't look right. It didn't work properly. And whatever I did wrong. And then you do this and you go, now that's what I wanted. But like all things, yeah. Well, Jody, a year ago, how many times did I try just to be able to get cells? How many hours and how much was on the floor from that one? So, and Jody put up, hi, Linda. Oh, Linda, I wanted to show you as well. I was just saying, did you see it, Linda? The before and after? Yes, you see, but you know me, I wasn't going to quit until I could do it. And then, of course, I did it, and then I played with it. And then, okay. So I was saying that, that I showed people this picture, and you probably saw this one this weekend already. But, this looks so easy. And I was explaining that I did so many that looked like this first. Hi, Em. So many that looked like this before I got this. And I wanted people to understand that this was not like easy for me. And I know some people that can do it immediately and they sort of go, what's wrong with it? And I'm going, I don't know, I just don't get it. And then I got it. Now, will I be able to repeat it? We'll find out. Because that really, to me, that really is, beautiful. So the other thing that Jody today put up an incredible thing, and I want to just, yeah, the red does look like bricks, doesn't it? Yeah. Let me just try and find what Jody put up today because it was so darn cute. Hang on, I will get to it. Whoops, wrong thing. Just bear with me 1 second. It requires that I change screens. Oh, actually, I think I can show you what she put up because I'm now multi-talented in terms of equipment. Again, hang on a second. So I will just give me a chance to turn on my tab. Okay, so Jody sent me this. Whoops. Hang on 1 second. Now I've got to get back to so I can see what you're seeing. Okay. Okay, and it was the cutest little picture. All right. And I'm going to read you what it says because it is pretty small. It says, imagine you are a lake. The surface of the lake changes according to the weather, the wind, the rain, etc. But the depth of the lake remains always undisturbed. The depth of the lake is your inner state, not dependent on external things. All right, so how many of you can understand that? Right, that's what's happening on the top isn't necessarily the same as what is happening underneath. Now, Jody, you know that I have always told you my truth. And so when I saw this, I burst out laughing. And I thought to myself, doesn't Jody know I'm a duck? Now, you're going, what does she mean? And I'm going, I'm a duck. And sometimes I'm a swan, but most times I'm a duck. Now, the reason I'm a duck is because when I swim across this lake, 9 times out of 10 people who see me perfectly fine gliding along the top of the lake. How many of you relate to that one? And occasionally I bop my head down and go pick up some food, but you know, the duck is just gliding along. But what am I doing underneath that people can't see? So when I saw this one, Jody, I went, and there is the difference in life. Some of us are ducks, and some of us are, I'm going to say it this way, Jody, you know, bottom dwellers, right? Because I'm pretty sure I mess up what's going on below the surface of my lake. You know, anything that was trying to keep tranquil, as I come past, you know, I will be churning up a lot of stuff. Which is why, Jody, I talk to you a lot about the imaginary librarian I have in my head that I call Jones, who spends my nights trying to process all that I've seen and thought about and done. And he keeps me awake a lot of nights because it's like, where on earth do I file this stuff that she's collected? You know, and I'm going, yeah, well, do what you can. So, Linda, how are things in England? And I just wanted to thank you there, Jody, because had you not sent me that version of the lake, I would not have remembered my version of the lake, which brought me humor, and I appreciated that. Now, we're going to be, you're paddling wildly as well. Yes, you know, we look pretty calm on the outside for people who don't know us any better. I was a good girl yesterday. I was very proud of myself. I am. You're also, but you know something? I don't think that it's bad. I think it's just the way that you work. All right. So for me to actually show the stress on top of the lake means I'm overwhelmed. Does that make sense? The only time I actually show that stress, except for the people that are very close to me, would be when I'm overwhelmed. Or I am really, I'm really not a happy camper with somebody. And you all have seen that one on me. I don't do that one. I don't do that one that well either. I'm patient up to a point, and after that, I get a little bit irritated. So, but I wanted to give you both sides of that story because I don't think either of them is the right one. And yet, on the other hand, I think they're both correct. I think it's quite true that the lake has a lot of stuff on the top. And if you are in perfect serenity, I believe that that's the only place where you're disturbed is in the conscious, if you think about that. And so, but I don't think that's bad. I think that is why we're still on this planet. I've always said to people, I'm so glad I'm not perfect yet, because I don't think I'd be around anymore if I were. Do you understand what I'm saying? I believe the whole reason we're here is to learn these things. And if I had all the lessons, would I still be here? I don't think so, necessarily. So I wake up very grateful, that I woke up, yay. And I can't tell you, at 71, you literally wake up and you go, oh, that's good, I'm awake. And then you try and get out of bed. That's not so good. And so that's when I realized I need to do more core strength exercise, which is why I started doing Tai Chi this week. And by the way, my muscles are telling me that however calm and graceful Tai Chi is, it sure uses some muscles. You can sort of go here and do this and do this and, do the ball and this, that, and the other. And you're thinking, oh, that's fine. It's pretty easy. Yeah. And the next thing you know, you're using shoulder muscles you haven't used in a long time. And you are using leg muscles you haven't used in a long time. And you are using knee muscles where as you rotate because of the way that the rotation is that you haven't used for a long time. So guess what? It's a good thing for me to be doing because I do need that core strength. And I love how calm Tai Chi is. It's a very calm thing. And so, to put on some music that you really like, sort out a couple of moves that you like, and then find some music that you like and spend a couple of songs just doing that movement or those movements, a couple of them. You'll be amazed. You'll be absolutely amazed. I was thinking as well, Jody, that so many of those movements, if you just did them sitting up in bed, they would still stretch an awful lot of muscles because you could imagine using your leg muscles. For those of you who don't know, Jody spends a lot of time bedridden because she has lymphedema. But, Jody, I was thinking that if you actually watched it and did it in your mind, did it the top half with your arms, but did the rest of it with your mind, you would still be pushing blood flow. And I think, yes, and very calming. So try it, see what happens. See, try, and if you like, I'll gladly send you the link of the one that I do because I find that it really depends on the person doing it. I don't know if anybody else has found this. If I don't like the person's voice, it's a bit like YouTube, right? If I don't like the person's voice or if I don't like their mentality or appeared mentality, or if there's part of me that goes, even if they look too good at it, it's like, no, I don't want the perfect one. I want the one that makes me feel comfortable because then I can learn. So that's an interesting part for me, right? Because I've seen some really good people, but, they're not slow enough for me. They need to slow down a bit. I know you know what you're doing, but I need to learn. Yes, I will send you the link, and especially if you remind me if I don't. You can take accountability on your side. So I really want to say that this is our challenge for this week. Jody and I are doing a 2-hour challenge. And if somebody, hi, Jonas, if anybody else is trying to do something this week, please join Jody and I on our 2-hour challenge because that's all we have to do is 2 hours on this thing we're procrastinating about. It's a major step in the right direction. And how you do the 2 hours, whether you do it 2 hours straight, whether you do, 30 minutes a day, doesn't matter. It's like did you do 2 hours? And as I said, I was in my studio for, you got your first job interview on Wednesday. All right. So Jonas, tell us, what do you feel about that? Do you have any fear? And Jody, if you could just make a note of that for us, just so that, well, of course, that would be quite normal, Jonas. So that's why I wanted to check that you were quite normal, right? It's quite normal to be nervous and quite normal that you would fear rejection. So here's my question to you. Is rejection part of life? And the reason I say that is because there's something, yes, of course, exactly, Jonas. Yes, of course, rejection is part of life. So don't see this as pass or fail. See this as lessons in possible rejection and how to deal with it. So would you like Sal's tip of the day on handling rejection? Okay. I used to do a lot of sales in my time, Jonas. And one of the things I taught all my salespeople was, if you can't be number one, do everything you know how to be number two. Now, what I meant by that, Jonas, is this, that if they go in to make a sale and they lose the sale to a competitor, do you understand? That can be because the competitor's, daughter works there, their cousin is there. There can be all sorts of reasons that they're using this person instead of you. Does that make sense? And so what I used to say to my salespeople is, if you did good work and you missed it, then how you handle that is vital, right? Because it could be you missed it for something that's beyond your control. And so what I trained all my salespeople to do was to say, hey, I understand you went with X, Y, and Z, and I'm certain you had really great reasons to do that. May I ask you one question? And the question they'd be expecting is, how do I get your business? And that wasn't the question. The question was, what do I need to do? The first question was, if something goes wrong with the number one pick you've just had, would I be number two? I put that thought into their mind. Now, if they hesitate, right, I'd know I wasn't number two. But if they said, yeah, of course, I was actually quite sorry that we couldn't employ you, but, we needed to employ Fred. So you sort of get an idea of that. But the other side of it is this: what would I need to do to be number two? So in case anything goes wrong with number one, because that's life, it happens, how would I become the next one you call? Does that make sense, Jonas? And so if your mind is always thinking, if I'm not number one, have I placed myself to be number two? And I cannot tell you how many times my salespeople would come back to me and laugh and say, they called me because number one let them down. But they also told me they hadn't actually put me at number two. But the fact that I made that call or wrote that letter and put that idea into their head, I became number two. Because what I was telling them is I wanted to be with them. Does that make sense, Jonas? So even if it wasn't a reality, the fact that you tried to do it will put you in a different realm of people. So The other thing is, what I also found was that, now, you understand saying no to me wasn't an easy thing to do for anybody. So Jonas, I just want to tell you that I never took rejections in that way personally. I took it as a challenge. All right. And so to me, everything was a learning lesson. And I want to tell you, Jonas, that I went to go, for example, we had a client, apparently, when I took over a particularly big job, they had a client who should have been with us and wasn't, Jonas. And I said to the people responsible for getting that business, why aren't we getting that business? And what they told me was something went wrong 10 years ago. And I said, and? Well, no, the guy's still holding that grudge. And I said, really? Then would it be all right for me to go and visit him? And they looked at me and they went, what? And I said, I'd like to go and visit him. Would that be okay? And the salesperson said, well, of course, yeah. So I said, well, I don't want to step on your toes, it's your client, but I'd certainly like to go and talk to him. Jonas, feel sorry for this man. So I went in and I said to him, hi, my name's Sal and I just took over. And my people tell me that you are not dealing with us. And he said, yeah, that's right. And I said, well, I could be wrong because first impressions sometimes are not correct, but most of the time they are. And you look fairly smart to me. So there's something I don't know. For you to not be using us, you must have some pretty solid reasons for not using us. And could I hear what they are? And he said, well, I did something with a company 10 years ago and they screwed it up. And I said, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. By the way, the company's changed hands since then, right? You're aware of that. He said, yes. And I said, so the same people that messed with you are not there anymore. You understand that? And he went, yes. I said, so it can't just be that. Because logic would say, that's been and gone. That boat sailed a long time ago. The water's gone under the bridge. It's now down in the Delta. So therefore, it's got to be more than that. So tell me why else. Now, I want to tell you, he started to struggle then, Jonas, because, that was still his reason, and I knew it. So, but, I wanted to try and give him credit for having more than half a brain. So then he started to make up some really interesting reasons, and I was taking very good notes because I always have done. And by the way, it's a good idea to take some notes. Even if you don't do it in the interview, make sure when you leave, you take some notes, because when you write your thank you letter, which most people won't, when you write your thank you letter for them giving you the time, make sure you quote back a couple of things that were said, because that tells them that you actually not writing a boilerplate type letter. Anyway, so the funny thing was, this guy's busy talking away, and I'm taking notes, and then he looked at me and he said, And I said, And he said, Let me just finish the story, Jonas, and then I'll tell you. And so I said, what? And he said, tell you what, why don't we give you an order right now? And I said, what? And he said, I'll give you a year-long contract right now. I said, that's very kind of you, thank you. And a good decision, by the way. But may I ask why? And he said, everything about you tells me one thing very clearly. And I said, and what would that be? And he said, you're going to leave here and you are going to fix every one of the things that I have said is a reason why I can't advertise with you. I said, well, actually, most of them are fixed anyway, but yeah, you're right. And he said, and then you're going to storm back here. You're going to have the list, because I saw what great notes you took. You're going to have a list and say, these are all the reasons you gave me why you couldn't. Those are all fixed now. Now then, let's move on. And he said, so why don't I just save time and give you the order now? I said, that would be very smart and save you a lot of time, because you're quite right. That's exactly what I would have done. And we both burst out laughing. We had another cup of coffee and we chatted about the football cup, the FA Cup final, because that was coming up or something. And we were buds from that point onwards. And, he used to take me to lunches and things and say to his friend, don't ever say no to this woman. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, because she'll just give you the look that you don't want to see. And the next time she gives you that look, you're going to be in big trouble. So I just said, you're right. I cannot argue. So Jonas, if you don't get the job, should you ask them why? May I ask, and please pass if you'd rather not, may I ask what job you're applying for? The reason I'm going to say to you, wow, it's a dishwasher job at Red Lobster, right? That is awesome. So it's an entry-level job. Are you a good dishwasher? The reason I ask you is, whether you have got any experience in washing dishes. Ah, exactly. But have you ever washed dishes? And if so, yes. And that's what I would say. I would actually say during my interview, look, I've washed dishes, obviously. I do it at home all the time, and therefore, I know something about washing dishes at home. I know diddly about washing dishes at Red Lobster. So if I got the job, would I have your top person training me on the right way to do it to be most efficient? Because obviously, the better the initial training I get, the more helpful I'm going to be to the company. Do you see how I'm wording that, Jonas? Now, they might say, look, the reason you're here is because our top guy just quit. So then you go, okay, fine. Who is the top guy in the area? Because what I do is I try and get to watch the top guy in the area. Right? And say, look, I personally like to take the time to go and watch the best guy so that I can learn his techniques and bring them. Yeah, I've met people that, were great dishwashers. Yeah, so I would definitely do that. Now you see, how many people are going to ask that sort of a question? Because I would think for here's a question I'd also ask. It is my sense that Red Lobster would rather that the dishes were cleaned properly rather than, just speed. And obviously the ideal would be a mix of great quality and speed. And that can only come with experience. And I understand that. And I'm sure that, that the training period will allow me to get up to speed. So, the more tricks of the trade I can learn at the get-go, the quicker that's going to be for you. So, to me, I would definitely show that I had interest. If I could, I would at least talk to, some of the people that work at Red Lobster. And find out, what the culture is like. I would find out, do they know what that manager is like? Because different managers will have different areas of interest. So it doesn't matter if you don't get a chance to do this, because this is ready for your next interview if you need one, right? Start thinking differently, because Jonas, let me tell you something, that in all my years of employing people, if they came in asking the same obvious questions that everybody has taught them to ask, I 9 times out of 10 didn't employ them, because I wanted somebody who thought outside the box. Does that make sense, Jonas? I didn't want a normal person because I wasn't normal, right? And the other thing is, I don't want you to ever think that being a dishwasher is anything but a great job to have. Why is being a dishwasher a great job to have? And I say that because it is all about a mentality. If your intent in going to do the job as the dishwasher is to become the best dishwasher in the neighborhood, then you will do very well in life. If you go there and, go, not only am I going to do the dishes, but as soon as I finish that part of my job, I'm going to be helping other people because I'm a team player. Very important thing. All right, because in all kitchens, you're going to have a lot of stress, and what you want are team players. So it's not just a case of, obviously you get your job done first, but if you've finished your job, instead of hanging around and twiddling your thumbs, you go to the top person, you go, okay, the dishes are done for the time being. Before the next lot stack up, what can I do to help? Or get a buddy, that's a sous chef or something, and start training for that job just in between. Do you understand what I'm saying, Jonas? So to me, I would always recommend that you see this as a major stepping stone in life. Now, you're a smart cookie, Jonas, and the reason I know that is you wouldn't be, part of the broadcast here if you didn't have more than your average brain. Now, I'm saying that, and I hope I'm not embarrassing you, but that alone tells me you don't think like the normal person, right? Because you take time every week to come and participate in a broadcast, almost every week. And that, for somebody of your age, is unusual. And we've had a few, Jonas, young people. Right? So to me, that's the most important thing. So when you're going through that interview, be aware of what's important to most people. Well, Jonas, I'm delighted to hear that the broadcast has helped you. And to me, I would recommend that you continue to come and bring whatever issues come up for you back to the broadcast so we can process them, because that will make you general manager of Red Robin or Red Lobster in no time at all. You know what I mean? It's like, if we can get you the right mentality on these things, then, this is the whole thing. When I was looking for people, I didn't always look for easy people. Right? And I say that because, Jonas, I had one receptionist that really I knew hated my guts. She hated everything I stood for, Jonas. She considered me to be elitist. She considered me to be a snob. She continued, she had all sorts of judgments about me that were probably pretty fair from her perspective. And then one day I turned around and I had a major opening in my department. And I went to her and I said, I've got a major opening in my department. I'd like you to apply. And Jonas, she looked at me and she said, you know, I don't like you. I said, yeah, I'm well aware of that. She said, why would you want to give me an opportunity if I don't like you? I said, your talent is more important to me than whether you like me or not. And one thing I can do is see talent a mile away, and you have talent. And I'd be honored to have you on the team. The fact that we would both have to, breathe a lot deeply so that we don't light each other's fuses, we both know. So, I'd like to give you some time to think about it, but, we're both going to be challenged by it. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't offer you the job. Make sense, Jonas? So the reality is that a lot of this will depend on the connection you have with the person that's interviewing you. And they expect you to be nervous, and they expect you to be, trying to impress them. So the questions I would probably ask if I were asking you that job is I'd ask you, what sports do you play? Why would I want to know what sports you play, Jonas? Uh-huh. But why would I want to know what sports do you play? Because I want you to be ready for the answer you're going to give because you don't play sports. Jody, Linda, why would I ask what sports do you play? What am I looking for here? Team players, yes. But I want to know whether he plays golf on his own, or whether he plays tennis on his own, or plays doubles in tennis, or does he play lacrosse? And in which case, what position does he play? Very important to me. So all the time I'm looking for, is this a team player? Yes, so now then, if you have to say, no, I don't play any sports, if you get asked that question, what are you going to come back with? You're going to go, actually, I'm not a sports player. Look at my body, or whatever it is, I would probably say, look at my body, because that to me would be a dead giveaway that I'm not a sports player. However, I believe what you probably like to know is, am I a team player? Am I correct in that? Because I have lots of examples of where I can demonstrate my ability to be part of a team. All right, so what have you done in your life that shows you're part of a team? And here, I'd even, if you're part of a big online game, one of these big networks, multiplayer things, I would talk about that and how high you've risen in that, because that requires a lot of skills I'd probably be looking for, Jonas. I know a lot of people would probably not tell you to say that, but what I would do is I would show how that experience has proven to you, you've learned a lot of skills from doing that. I talk about the size of your family. If you've got a small family, then your teamwork skills are not as big as those if you happen to live in a family where, there's 600 of them. There you go, Jonas. There you go. You're right. You got the right. You'd say, okay, so I'm not a sports player, but are you looking for examples of what I do in teamwork? Because you've probably noticed on my resume that I was part of a filmmaking crew, and that I actually not only was part of the crew, but I ended up directing. Right? That tells me you're a team player, you're creative, and you're prepared to take responsibility, all things that I want to know. Get it, Jonas? All right, so let's ask you another question. Let's see how you do on this. Is this helping you, Jonas? The number one thing I would say to you is do not go in for an interview, go in for a conversation. All right? Be as relaxed as you possibly can. In as much as I say to people, don't go in for an interview because interviews are scary. Go in for a conversation, right? So if you're chatting to me, imagine I'm the person asking you the questions. So let's ask you another question. Jonas, what makes you think you're a good fit for Red Lobster? Now, it's going to be really important as to who is asking you these questions. And the reason I say that is you might have somebody who is just a couple of rungs up from dishwasher that is interviewing you, not necessarily the manager. But I'm not sure if you know who's going to interview you or not, because that would make a difference. But what I hope you can see here, Jonas, is that if you can think a couple of steps ahead of your average person filling in this application, you will be seen as somebody who is a couple of steps ahead of the average person. Okay, it's going to be the manager. Wow. So make sure you say, I really want to thank you for taking the time to personally interview me. Because I know, I'm pretty sure you got things you could be doing. But say it, even though, and mean it, right? There's a difference between you just rolling it off like it's something you have to say, or being able to say it genuinely. And just saying, I'm sure you got other things you need to be doing. So I really do appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. Because you understand, he could have delegated this to somebody lower down the line, but it tells you, and I'd say it tells me a lot about your crew, that you personally pick the people for the crew. Like that one, Jonas? See, because what happens is that if he interviews the people for the crew, he's got a certain mentality that he's looking for. And quite honestly, if you read the ad well, it'll probably tell you what they want. But the trick is to get those points in without using the exact words they said in the ad. So can you think of some things that said in the advertisement? Because that's, I have a lot of people who, I work with when they're going for interviews. And one of the things I ask them to do is send me the ad that they put out there. I want to see what they said in the ad, because that's the giveaway to my mind. There's some ads where I'm going, yikes, I wouldn't apply for this job in a month of Sundays. But other ads, you go, okay, that's very clear. I can see exactly what they're looking for. So here's the thing, Jonas. If you've got any questions that you fear, all right, send me an email at DearMamaSal@gmail.com, and I'll give you some ideas, some options on how you might reply to them. Okay? And the other thing is this: if you do the interview and you come out of it and go, I can't believe that I wasn't properly prepared for this, write down what you weren't properly prepared for, and then let's talk about it. Yeah, but what I want you to do, Jonas, is to see it for yourself, because you're a smart cookie. Read that ad, and if it says we're looking for a team player, what do you know that they need? They need somebody who is a time freak, right? That, think about this, right? They need somebody who's going to be on time. Why? Because otherwise the dishes will start piling up. They need somebody who respects time. So I'd be so clear that whatever they ask you, you can say, actually, I'm a bit of a bore on this one because my friends just roll their eyes at me because whenever we go anywhere, I'm the one that's always 10 minutes early. They're 3 hours late. I'm always 10 minutes early. But don't say that if it's not true of you. Exactly. Take this as a learning lesson on how to interview. And you're just going for your first practice. This is a real life practice. That's the way to approach it. There is no failure. Jonas, did you see the story about the picture here? All right. This didn't come the first time I tried it. I did an awful lot of these. All right. This didn't come the first time I tried it. Right? I started on little things like this. So what I want you to see is that in life, if you can see every day as a day of lessons, not a day of pass and fail, it's a day of lessons. All right. And then there is no fail. This is like, okay, fine. As soon as you get out of that interview, get a notepad or your laptop or whatever you work on and write down, what did I do that was right? Where did you make him smile, or her? Where did you feel comfortable? And then where did I struggle? All right. And make sure that before you go to the next interview that you know how to answer these questions better. You don't have to be perfect, just get a better idea. And the other thing is not to answer them the same as 99% of the other people will, because that just puts you in the normal category. And most people are not looking for normal. It doesn't matter whether it's for a dishwasher or a CEO. Yeah, Linda, I'm glad that you understand the day of lessons. By the way, I just wanted to do a little bit of the soul work. And I'm not going to worry about the time on this one, Jody, because I'm going to actually head this up that we talked about interviewing, because I think that is important for people to hear this. But I do want to get on to a couple of them. So Jonas, email me what you need to. All right. So here's the first quote that I found, and that was, realize that you cannot help a soul unless that soul really wants help and is ready to be helped. I tell you to send that soul nothing but love and more love. Be still and wait. But be there when the soul turns for help. I'm pretty sure that everybody here knows that to be true. And there have been people that have come in here, for example, because they are supposedly ready to help, to have help. And yet their actions tell me, no, that's not true. all right, that they're not willing to do the work. They want to get fixed, but they're not willing to do the work. That means that they're not ready for help. So does that mean that we should not care for them? No, but it does mean that they're not ready for us to help them. All right. And that doesn't make them a bad person. That makes it, I've always said that everybody does this at their own speed. And their speed is the right speed for them. Linda, I am sure that when you and I first met, all right, there were certain concepts I was talking about that you're going, I have no idea what she's talking about. And now as you look back, you go, wish I'd listened to that one a lot earlier in life, right? Because you can see it now, right? Because you got honest and you admitted your stuff. I find it very interesting that when something happens to upset me, the first thing I do, Jonas, and it revolves back to what you're going through. Whenever something gets me uneasy, if you like, I'm doing the duck thing underneath the water, then I will talk it out with somebody I trust a great deal, and I know somebody that knows me very well. For example, I had quite a discussion this week with Yvonne about, was it coincidence that that first place I looked at back in March still hasn't sold, and now the price has dropped all the way back to the original price? And I said, there's part of me that is beginning to second guess whether I was meant to get it in the first place. And that's why it's still available. And then Yvonne said to me, actually, no. She said, I don't think it was the right place. Although it checked a lot of boxes for you, but she said, because you got more excited about the fifth wheel, even though it was half the size. More than half the size, less than half the size. And she said, but you actually got more excited about the fifth wheel, even though that was going to be a much bigger challenge for you. So she said, I think that you're right, but time will tell. And the good news is you can't make a wrong decision because, as you so rightly said, it's an experiment. You're going to try it. So don't worry about second guessing yourself. And she said, the other thing you've got to think about, why did that place not sell in 6 months? What's wrong with it that nobody saw? Something. Why has it not sold in 6 months? 5 months. Right? So what I look at is when people come to us for help, we can't always help them. We can't help them because they think they want help, but they don't. They actually want sympathy. Do you understand the difference between the two? And, I still say, and I've said it many times before, that, for example, when Beth came to us, I took a really deep breath when I first met Beth because I couldn't believe the speed at which she was making changes in her life. It was not usual. You know what I mean? I'm not that good. And yet Beth seemed to take one listen and everything I said, she seemed to be like a sponge and she took it in and converted it and made changes. And it was like, part of me had this big question mark. Is this for real? Or is this somebody, playing the game here? And it was really interesting to me because I honestly believe now, because Beth's been holding this on for a long time. But everything that she has done since she's been part of DearMamaSal, tells me she genuinely wanted to change. Yeah, Linda, you're saying that your first conversation was me telling you, Linda, that you're wrong. I'm sorry that I said that. But sometimes we need the 2x4, right? Sometimes you need somebody to tell you that truth. Now, one of the things, Linda, that I really relate to is the fact that not everybody wants to change. All right. And that's okay as well. Does that make sense? And I say that because can you imagine how frustrating it must have been, for example, for Benji? And I want to talk about the frustration for Benji when he had all the answers on how I could be highly successful on YouTube. But my problem was I didn't want to do it that way. It wasn't what I came to do. So can you imagine how frustrating that must have been, because he obviously loved my talent because that's why he put me on YouTube. And then he had the knowledge that he shared and I didn't do it. So can you imagine how frustrating that must have been? And I'm not saying that he was right and I was wrong, or I was right and he was wrong. What I'm saying is not everybody wants to follow that path. And I have to say that I go to sleep at night knowing I chose to do it this way, and this way was not necessarily, yes, exactly. Linda's saying here, success is different for everyone. And that's when I go back. I think some of you know that I have a personal epitaph that I wrote for myself 20, 30 years ago now. And it starts with, here lies Sal, who cared enough to share, shared enough to make a meaningful difference, and by so doing became a gentle giant inside. That's what I would like people to be able to write on my tombstone. Here lies Sal, who cared enough to share, shared enough to make a meaningful difference. Does that make sense? It didn't say, here is Sal, the multimillionaire. Here is Sal, the landowner. Here is Sal, the da-da-da-da. It was about, I wanted to be able to know that I'd cared enough to share, and that I had shared enough in my life to make a meaningful difference in other people's lives. Not that I'd just thrown money at it, but that I actually had been, yes, my motivating factors were very different. And so that's why I'm saying that when you meet people and you're going, you know, I know what's wrong, and, you know, I'm so frustrated because they won't fix it. Part of the learning is to be able to realize that their speed is not your speed. They're not at the same place that you were at when you stumbled across. Ah, Linda, that is so cute. For those on the replay, Linda just said, I would be a wreck now if you had not cared. Yeah, and Linda, you know, I would never have been able to care if you hadn't shared. Does that make sense? I always remember you first coming up on camera, and the pain of you know, your whole body looked that you were emotionally in so much pain. And, you know, I cannot tell you what that feels like, you know, to actually be able to see that in somebody. And so to me, the greatest gift was that you allowed me. Yes, exactly. You know, give to others everything you can that doesn't cost money. And sometimes, you know, give them something that does cost money, right? If you're able to. So, you know, to me, it's about the person that you need to feel good with is yourself, right? When I go to bed, I can ask myself, did I care enough to share today? You know, and because I know that some days I might not feel well, but I'll still do a broadcast. And the reason I will do that is because do I feel well enough to share, even though I'm not feeling well? And the answer nearly always is yes. Occasionally, I will actually say, I don't feel strong enough to even broadcast, in which case I will cancel a broadcast. But you know how rarely I do that. Occasionally I cancel them because, there's a life situation that I really need to be at, and therefore I need to cancel. But my friends, no, don't try and do anything with me on a Friday or a Sunday. Well, Linda, it's wonderful to know that, that what we've been able to discuss, has helped you get out of bed for years now. All right. And that you cope better, because that's the whole thing. I think it's so sad that we really have so little coping skills given to us in our lives. We get lots of skills on, how to use the computer, but do we get the same skills in how to deal with rejection? How to deal with the realities of what we want to do. The other thing is, Linda, you had a very difficult process as well, because you had a situation in your life that most people will never have. All right. And that you made very solid choices about your life. And as I always respected you for that, right? As much as it frustrated me in some ways, I hope you know that I respected your right to have that decision. All right? And to me, that is another lesson in life, all right? To respect the fact that people don't want to change what they're doing. And see if you can help them cope better with what it is they're trying to do. So, oh, that's cute. She's saying, when are you coming to the UK? Because I need a Sal hug. Well, Linda, if ever you want to talk to me one-on-one, you just have to let me know, and we'll set up a Skype time or a private Facebook thing or whatever. If that's what you need. You're part of the family, honey, so, I would make time. But the reality is, Linda, I think that you understand the process a lot better now, all right? That you know what you're doing to yourself. I remember when I first met Jody, it was a real struggle because Jody was such an incredible enabler of people with the biggest heart in the world. You know what I mean? It's just like, and she couldn't see the control issue in that. And it took a while to teach her that. And, it was amazing to me how quickly she learned it and realized what was going on. And then, but it takes great wisdom to be able to see that as well. So I think anybody that comes in here and is prepared to talk honestly about what's going on, I value that. I really do. I really value that. And the same thing is, I want you to know that I had to sit down and have a very big talk with Yvonne, because I know Yvonne does for me what I probably do for you guys. And the funny thing is, I taught Yvonne about everything she knows, but I've taught her enough that I can now play my stuff against her, and she will, either give me a 2x4 back, or she will give me a hug back, be it verbally or whatever. But, because she knows the difference, where I need a 2x4 and where I need a hug. And she knows when to ask me, what is your fear? And, because she knows they're one of two things. How many times has she heard me say it? It's one of two things. We're coming from a place of love or a place of fear. So I look at it and go, I start Sundays again. You know what I mean? Sundays is my first day of the rest of the year. And so whatever I haven't done this week, I forgive myself and I start the week again. How many of you do that? Turn the page. Yeah? Don't worry about what you didn't get done, what you need to get done this week. So here's the next quote. No soul that aspires can ever fail to rise. No heart that loves can ever be abandoned. Difficulties exist only that in overcoming them we may grow strong. And they only who, wow, that actually is a typo in the quote, I'm sure, because it says, and they only who suffer are able to save. Oh, wow, let's forget the second part of that, because that doesn't make any sense at all, and I've read it 3 times to myself. I think it's meant to be, and they only know those who have suffered are able to save. Anyway, it still doesn't make sense. So here we go. No soul that aspires can ever fail to rise, and no heart that loves can ever be abandoned. Difficulties exist only in overcoming them that we may grow strong. So again, all right, how many times could I have just quit on this and just said, well, other people can do it, but I can't? And how many times did I try it again and throw it away again? And try it again and throw it away again and go, I don't know how they do this, because every time I try it, it doesn't work. And then I keep remembering, do I want to be able to do it? Yes. Well, if you want to be able to do it, you better keep trying it, because if you don't keep trying it, it's not going to work. I'd never have done this if I hadn't tried it just one more time. Now, when I can do it consistently, I will know I understand it. The good news is I did this one on camera. And the good news is I realized something this week, which is that, I changed my cell phone recently. And I realized that what I need to do is to put a good storage card into my old cell phone and use that, because the quality of that was really good, and use that for my taping in the studio. In other words, it's going to be a workhorse. That's its job. Its job is to stay permanently connected in a position so that I can just turn it on whenever I want to film something in the studio. And it doesn't matter if it gets a bit of paint on it, because that's what it is. It's the one in the studio. So I don't have to take my clean tablet or my brand new phone in there. And so then I said to myself, what do I need? I need a new SD card in there. And then I went, okay, so I need to take both phones in to Walmart and just go, I need an SD card in here. Check, I don't think it's got one anymore. I think you moved it to my other phone. But I want a new one in there. And I want a big one. Why? Because sometimes those painting takes longer than you think. And I've always been limited because, if it takes more than half an hour, I'm messed up completely. So I'm going, I need a big card in there so that I can take more than half an hour if I want to. And I'm going, why didn't I think of that before? Just repurpose the old phone to become the new camera. And the reason is because I very nearly dropped my brand new tablet into the paint last week. And I'm going, I don't want to be doing that. That's a lesson I don't want to learn. I want to learn to have a camera that can drop into the paint if necessary. So I would challenge you that don't quit on yourself. All right? And this next quote says, begin with the possible. Begin with one step. There is always a limit. You cannot do more than you can. And if you try to do more, you will do nothing. Gosh, how many of you know that one? If you get overwhelmed, you can't do anything. Right? And so that is why you have heard me in terms of downsizing. You have heard me time and time again talk to you about how I'm doing these little kachunkas, if you like, these little bits of stuff. Today, for example, I was doing an experiment. I actually do more than I give myself credit for, because today, while I was getting dressed, I was doing an experiment. I put a couple of shoe boxes out, and I tried to sort out my makeup in. This is makeup I use at least a couple of times a week. All right, I either use it every day or a couple of times a week. Do you know what I mean about that makeup? You know, it's your favorite colors, your favorite, powders, whatever. You've got those. Then you've got another range that you go, when I'm getting, something different, I use these. But I probably only use them once or twice a month. Am I making sense here? And so I started sorting out, what do I use every week? And what do I use maybe once or twice a month? And then if it's less than that, then, it needs to go in the garbage probably. So here's what I found, and you're probably not surprised to hear that. I did a pretty good job of that, and I put all the stuff in that I thought, and I put the once or twice a month box away. And the very first thing I needed was something in that box. How many of you are not surprised to hear that? And so then I laughed and I said, isn't that interesting? I've learned something today. I thought I only used that once or twice a month, and I'm wrong. I apparently need it more regularly. Therefore, it comes back into the once or twice a week or more box. The other thing I did, which was really interesting to me, I think I should show you. Hold on one second. Okay. I took things out of containers. And what I found in the dollar store was containers that click into one another. And some of them click better than others, apparently. There we go. So what I've done is marked them so I know what they are, but now they're all the same size, or they're big amounts and small amounts. And then I put all of those into one container. Sleep well in there. All right, and so now this is all stuff that I do use. But most of this is what I call backup stuff, right? It's not use it every day or even once a week. Actually, I lie. The fiber tabs I use every week and the CalMag I use every week. But they all fit nicely into one container, so I left them like that. So here's what I did as well. I took any medicines that I refill my personal medicines with, and I put them in one container as well. All right, so I know that this is the stuff I'm going to need to refill my medications with. And what I'm trying to do is to get a better idea of what do I use every week, and what do I use every day, what do I use every week, and keep those in the right containers. So once a week, I pull out this container that has my weekly, fill up my weekly medicines with. And then another one, which is the backups to those, I buy in bulk, so obviously my IB broken, whatever, I have the backups to that. So, I was looking at it and going, this actually makes more sense to me. That yes, I've got a big container somewhere that has a lot of what I call first aid type stuff, but I keep it under my bed. I don't see it from a day-to-day perspective, but it's all in one container. And if I need it in a hurry, I know exactly where it is, but it's out of sight for months at a time. But I know exactly how to get to it in a hurry if I need it. So I'm really trying to live my life a bit more like that. What stuff do I need every day? What stuff do I need every week? And I'm trying to do that with my kitchen as well. What stuff do I definitely use at least once a week? Because that's the stuff that's going to stay with me until I move out of here. If I use it once a month, I'm going to pack it up, but I'm going to want to be able to find it. So, that's, and if I haven't used it by the time I've moved, I know I can throw that box away. Because, I've spent how many months without it? Yeah, it can go. So, I look at it, Jody, with your 2-hour project. Well, something, Jody, it takes time to think about it, right? It takes time to go, if I had to have this again, how do I do it? That's what I keep saying to myself. I've still got a whole drawer of makeup and things that I probably am going to have to redistribute, right? And either throw it away or pack it away for the long term now. And what I'm trying to do is to go, just how many lipsticks do I really need? And again, do I want to start taking my lipsticks and maybe mixing them up into new shades that I've never seen before? And instead of having 32 of them, maybe only have 8. You know what I mean? It's like there are a lot of things that you sort of think about and you go, I wonder how I could do this. But what I have noticed is that some things you definitely will go back and use again. I keep thinking about, I haven't got it with me, but you remember I found, well, how many pallets have you got, Jody? I was looking at how many pallets I've got. And, I use them, but what I'm thinking about doing is taking some of those and literally grinding them up. I know this sounds insane, but literally grinding them up and using a bit of, what do you use? Alcohol? No. Wait. What's the other stuff? Not alcohol. I'll think of it. Anyway, you can just pour that in and it evaporates. So you can make new colors. And I'm thinking, instead of having 23 half-used colors, why don't I mix some of these up and, again, downsize them? Fill up some of the palettes where I've used it, but make new ones, new colors. If it's not alcohol, then what is it? Come on, Jody. What do they do? What do they use for compressed eyeshadows? I'm going to have to look it up now. It's going to drive me insane. All right, hang on. Let's see if I can find it. Alcohol. It is alcohol. Okay. Yeah. So I was right the first time. All right. Not drinking alcohol, but it's, yeah, I am right. I second guess myself so much these days. Thank you, Lee. Yes. So, but do you understand what I'm saying? I've got some colors that are a bit too dark or too light or too something. And I'm going, well, why don't I mix a couple of those together and get one really nice new color that I can then try? And, wouldn't that be fun to try and do it? Because I've never done it before. Like rubbing alcohol. Yes, that's exactly what it is. So I'm going, that's worth trying, right? For example, after many years of playing with it, I've now found, make my own dishwasher powder liquid. And it's very, very simple to do. And it's just like, it's taken me a while to get it so that it, isn't too soapy, too this, too that. But I save a fortune now just by mixing it up once a week and using it. So, and it works, and it's not too soapy, and it washes off nicely. So I think, that there's so much that we can downsize if we stop having so much of the stuff that we don't use and repurpose it or throw it out. And, I know a lot of people say to me about makeup, well, you should throw it out. Yeah, Lee, you make your own laundry detergent. Yes, I've, funny enough, I also have made it. I'm actually now buy mine in a very big container, which also is very cost effective. But, there's so many recipes online today for how to make your own laundry detergent or dishwasher or whatever. But what I found with my dishwasher stuff that I use, in my dishwasher, I use a little bit of this and a little bit of, what do I use? Washing soda, I use some lemon, I use a little bit of vinegar in it so it doesn't over suds. I use a little bit of dish soap and then some water, and I just mix it all up. And then every time before I do it, I just mix it all up and then I put it into the thing. And it works beautifully. So, I think that what I'm really learning here as I downsize to this degree is it really is an art. And if you just do it slowly, which I have done, and keep saying, okay, fine, well done. Now you've got 2 cubies with this in it, like I've got 2 cubies with pastas in it. Now, obviously the way to downsize to 1 cubie of pasta is to start cooking more meals with pasta. Would you all agree with me? You know what I mean? It's quite simple. It's like stop buying more, use it more. Because apparently I am very talented in the purchasing of pasta. And the reason I am is if I see it on sale, I will get a couple. And so now it's a case of, yes, but now you need to start using it. Enough's enough now. I have got an awful lot of grains, right? I've got lentils and chickpeas. Oh, well, not that chickpeas aren't grains, but, I've got oats. I've got, you name them. I've got 9 grains. I've got bottles and bottles of grains. And so I'm busy saying to myself, all right, what I'm going to start doing is pulverizing them into a flour and start making my own chips for a while, whole grain chips. Or papadums or whatever. But, I'm definitely going to start using those more frequently. It's all an experiment or throw it out. If you can't use it up fast enough, then you're going to have to throw it out. But, I'd rather not. I paid good money for it. Life. It's interesting. But I see every day as a lesson in downsizing. How do I take this lot and downsize it one more time? So, Jody, as I go into redoing my, something, Jody, you're right. I am doing great work. It just doesn't seem like I am. But, I've asked people who have moved. Most people tell me they didn't downsize to move. They just threw everything in boxes and moved. That's interesting. Now, I think Nana did a bit of both. but then that's who Nana is. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm saving myself in a way. I'll still take far too much with me. I have no doubt about that. But I'm saving myself a lot of work the other end, where I won't have the room. You see, the good thing is right here, I've got a lot of room to have boxes in different rooms and keep playing with them. So why wouldn't I? My concern is, what do I do with the family silver? You know what I mean? It's like that is very difficult. Or, the family, whatever, where really they're not things I really am going to be able to keep hold of. But I will learn. Yes, Lee, I don't know whether this is relevant, and I forgot to mention it while Linda was there. Do you suffer from heat rash at all? you know what I'm thinking as well, Jody? I think that this tip will also work with a mosquito bite, and I'm going to try it next time. Because what I was amazed at was 1 minute I was scratching like mad, as you can see here. And what I did, Lee, was for some reason, I decided to put some deodorant. I've got gel deodorant, and I put the gel deodorant on it, and it stopped the itching immediately. And not only that, it's dried it out. I'm certain that makes sense as well. But it's like, 1 minute it was flaring and itching like mad, and the next minute it just, boom. So I've got to make sure I tell Yvonne that as well. But what an easy way to fix it. And now it's a case of, would it do the same with a mosquito bite? What's for dinner tonight? Yeah, to stop a rash, right? I'm going to try it on my psoriasis, see if it, when my psoriasis gets really itchy. I'm going to try just, see what happens if I do that. I could end up with big problems, but we'll try. Tonight I am doing medallions of pork tenderloin in a orange ginger sauce with soy sauce and balsamic vinegar and stuff, And then I'm also doing some macaroni cheese for Yvonne on the side, and I will do some fresh vegetables that I will put on the barbecue as well. Yeah. So I've had the medallions of pork marinating in that sauce, in the fridge while I do the broadcast. So I will now sort of drip them dry. I'll drip dry them and barbecue them. And then at the last minute, I will throw some of that sauce over them again and let it caramelize a bit. And then I will heat the rest of the sauce up and pour it over the top. Does that make sense? So some will be sticky, like sort of what I call spare rib type sticky, and then some of it will just be like a sauce over the top. Yeah, it works. And I've got mandarin oranges that I'm going to put over the top just to, because I don't know, there's something about fruit in food. I don't know why I like to add fruit into my food, but I do. So, and mandarin oranges would make a lot of sense with what I'm cooking because it's an orange ginger. Yeah. So I'll either use it as decoration, around it, or I will just, sprinkle some on top of it. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to go and turn the barbecue on. And I've half cooked the mac and cheese, which is good. I want to tell you, did you try that peach coleslaw, Jody? because I just was going to eat a peach after the coleslaw, and I thought, you know something, I think I'm just going to huck it on top. I want to tell you, coleslaw and peach together is an awesome blend of tastes. I was actually really surprised. How did I make it? The coleslaw with peaches, I literally had some coleslaw. I hucked some mayonnaise in with the coleslaw and mixed it up. And then over the top, I sliced peaches. It was very difficult. But I want to tell you something. I probably next time would even chop the peaches up a little more and just mix it in with the coleslaw, if I thought it would all get used in one day. I will do. Em, all the best. Great to see you again. And did you get to see the Pope? Em, while I think about it. I know he was down your way. So, everybody, I just as a parting thought, and I'm late already, but I was thinking to myself today, I am so glad for the McCain family that this is the last day of their official duties. Today, they will put Senator John McCain to rest at the Academy, and they can go home and be private again. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I thought they must really need that. They must really need to be out of the public eye and away from all the pomp and ceremony and just spend another week for themselves. And how difficult to return home and know that John will never be there again. So I'm sure it'll be a very difficult week for them. But I would not be me if I didn't just say that is what's been on my mind. How I've been praying for them to have the strength to return home and to look after themselves. Because they definitely did a great job, and he would have been very proud of them. Very proud indeed. So with that thought, remember to look after one another. But most of all, remember to look after yourself. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, have a great week. Plan it that way. And bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.